Welcome to One Rhyme at a Time, unpacking the meaning and the muse podcast where poetry meets mental wellness right here in the heart of Chattanooga, Tennessee. I am your host, the Poetic Diva, and I am thrilled to embark on this poetic healing journey with you. As in every episode, we are being visited by a poet and a mental health professional. Today, we are talking about alcoholism, the impact, and the effects. I came across something online that says alcohol is a very effective dissolving agent. It dissolves families, marriages, friendships, jobs, bank accounts, and neurons, but never problems. Today, we are being visited by poet M.K. Simon and mental health professional DeShanee Thomas. Let's meet our first guest, M.K. Simon. M.K. Simon is the mother of 4 and grandmother of 8. She began seriously writing in 1986. She originally started writing for personal release. It has been through her connection with Rhyme and Chat Interactive Poetry Organization that she has become a published poet, having her poetry included in their annual poetry anthologies. She has also shared her poetry on many stages in the Chattanooga, Tennessee area and tri-state areas. MK recently completed her own one-woman show at the Lady Knapp's Winery in Chattanooga, and she looks forward to other opportunities to showcase her art. MK generally writes about loving, losing, and learning experiences. She enjoys practically every type of creative art and tries to encourage others to find their own creative outlet. Her inspirations include Stevie Wonder, Marvin Gaye, India Arie, William Shakespeare, Robert Frost, and Raina Maria Rilke. So let's listen in as M.K. Simon shares her poem, Taken Back, on One Rhyme at a Time.
He told her that drinking wasn't the answer. He said that one taste, just one taste, could take her back to where she used to be. She wouldn't believe it. So when the chips were down and the trouble came round and she sat on the curb in the middle of town, up under a tree where a stray dog just peed, her Bible was not in her hand. But beside her, a Heineken stands proud and tall, and she knows that all her troubles will drown in that green glass tower of feel-good. He said one taste would take her back to where she used to be. She's not trying to hear it. And it's probably for fear that he's telling the truth that they both wish was a lie. Because see, last year she didn't even try to stop drinking. She just lost the desire of the hangover headaches and the breath of fire and the smell that lingers in the room that she tried to hide with strawberry perfume from Victoria's Secret. Well, guess what? Her secret's out. He said that it only would take one taste to take her back to that forgetful place in the bottle. No genie hidden here, just stress, fatigue, and the general fear of acceptance or lack thereof in all walks of life. See, one day she's going to ask him what he's been through, so she knows if he really knows what she's been through. Because he says that one taste will get her back hooked, but does he realize all of the time that it took for Miss Thang to develop her poison escape to the point she drank soft Jack with ice cream and cake, just like it was Kool-Aid? Oh, yeah. See, he doesn't allow her to have the emotions that come with the everyday issues. He doesn't allow her to scream from the rooftops and not have a fresh box of tissues. He doesn't allow her to find any comfort in crying till her eyes turn red, so she holds the pillow till she falls asleep and still wakes to a half-empty bed. See, it's more than just boyfriends and husbands and such. It's about having someone who loves you as much as you ought to love yourself. And he told her drinking wasn't the answer. He said that one taste, one simple taste could take her back, and she may think that this life may be over soon. But the curb's getting hot, and she's already drunk. Her 12-pack is gone, and who would have thunk that the problem she's got won't have normal solutions, and her habits will probably get her institutionalized since he's telling her stuff that she really don't want to hear. Damn, she ran out of beer already, and it's only 12 noon.
Oh, what an ending to that poem. Okay, so I've got to ask you. I've heard poetry about all types of topics. What inspired you to put pen to paper on the topic of alcoholism?
Me.
Tell us about that.
I spent 5 years in the Marine Corps. During that time, anytime there was an event, there was drinking involved. So I got into it. I drank, I did what I did, but then it just became something that became part of me. So as I would drink, I felt the comfort in where it took me. So every time I drank, I just got comfortable. I got lost in that. And anytime I wanted to escape something, I just drank.
Right.
Exactly.
And when you came out of that, whatever it was that you were trying to escape
It was still there.
still there.
It was still there.
Still there. And sometimes even bigger than before.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what got you to the point to where you actually started to listen to the he in this poem that is saying that drinking wasn't the answer? What was your breaking point?
I don't think I really got to that place where I listened to the he. I was in a place where, because like in the middle of the poem, there was a point where I just didn't drink. And then there was a point where I started back. Because in the roller coaster I went through in life, when I was in my up spaces, I just didn't have the desire. But then when I was down in my low places, I did. So, and then that's when he came across and was like, why are you drinking again type thing.
Right.
Because this is what helps me get through, and so I never really started to listen to that. But it's like I was fighting it. That's where the fight came in. Like, how do you know what I've been through?
Right.
You know what I mean? You haven't been through. What have you been through? Because this is what helps me. You know what I mean? Type thing.
Like, so, you don't know my journey. You don't know what I've been through.
Yeah. You don't know what I'm dealing with. So, you cope your way, I cope mine.
Yeah.
In
this poem, who is he?
He is actually a combination of people.
Okay.
So I've had friends in different areas of my life that have said, you don't need to be drinking, close relatives, friends, clergy, whoever I was involved with at different times in my life had different people said, and then of course, God himself, you know what I mean? In my prayer time, so he would be the ultimate he, but
definitely
he was the umbrella for all the people, physical people
that were reaching out. Mm-hmm. I get that. So I always enjoy, I've heard a lot of your poetry over the years, and I always enjoy the rhythm of your poetry and the rhyme within your poetry. And it's challenging, I believe, on a lot of levels to create rhyming poetry that doesn't sound corny in a box,
Right.
But you have a beautiful way of being able to put in like this internal rhyme and all of that. Tell us a little bit about your process when it comes to writing.
Do I have to have an actual process? Because it really doesn't feel like one.
And sometimes that's the process.
Exactly. Because a friend of mine recently told me that I ramble a lot. And when I look at my poetry, sometimes I feel like it's rambled onto the page, but it's a rhythmic ramble.
It is.
So when I do it, and I just love words. So I find words that I love and I learn what they mean, and I use metaphors to get my point across. You scream from the rooftops and not have a fresh box of tissues. It's like, you need tissues. You're screaming, you're crying, you're bawling your eyes out, and you're on the rooftop and you have no tissue. But
there were several places where I was like, oh my gosh, this wordplay, and where is she getting this from? So you're referring to the Heineken, and you refer to it as a green glass tower of feel good. Expound on that.
If you look at a bottle of beer, it stands like a tower. Like you look at the Eiffel Tower, you look at a bottle of beer, you look at even the Leaning Tower of Pizza, right? It's kind of stands like that. It towers over your problem. The bottle towers over your problem, and it's green and it's glass, and it makes you feel good, and therefore you have a green glass tower.
Feel good. And did you say thunk?
Thunk. I did say thunk because it rhymed with drunk.
Oh, rhymed with drunk. Okay, poetic license. Poetic license. We could totally do that. So it's like I'm reading through the poem, and it's on a very, very serious situation, but there's still like your humor is still embedded in the lyrics of your poetry. Even when you mentioned the strawberry perfume from Victoria's Secret, and guess what? Her secret's out.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, what are some other things about the creation of this poem that you want us to know about?
There are so many factors that so many things played a part in factored into this poem, and it was like by this point I had children. I was still drinking, and I use the term loosely that there was times in my life where I could drink you under the table, right? I drink, you fall under the table. I'm still up.
I'm still
doing my thing, right?
Right.
So, and I took pride in that.
Right, because your tolerance had built
right.
up.
My tolerance was to a place where I could drink all night long and go to work the next morning and probably still be half drunk. I was I used to call myself a functioning alcoholic because I never missed a day of work. I always did what I was supposed to do. And because of that, I did see there were times that my children, though, my oldest in particular, I would see him cleaning up empty bottles, throwing them in the garbage that I had left in the counters, when I would go to bed. And there would be however many of them. And he would just do his duty
cleaning up
and do the garbage. And it's like, he shouldn't have to do that.
Yeah.
He shouldn't be doing that. Yeah. So either I stop drinking or I clean up behind myself, which most of the time you can't do one without the other,
I understand that. And so as you consider yourself a functioning alcoholic and you're still punching the clock on time, you're still doing the things that need to be done, how did it present itself as being a problem? Like it seems like it would be more challenging to consider the drinking as a problem but I'm still going to work, but I'm still doing all the things.
Right.
So what were the things that made you realize, okay, this is a problem and I need to make a change?
I don't know if I ever really thought it was a problem.
Wait a minute. Have you changed?
I have.
Okay.
I have.
But let me stop here. That question really doesn't make sense. If it's like, oh, I got a bottle in the car.
No. But honestly, I never came to that place where this is a problem. I have to stop.
Okay.
It was one of those things where when it did stop, it was like it tapered off. Like I said to myself, well, maybe if I just stopped drinking hard liquor and I just wean myself onto beer and I just drink beer for a little while, then I'll just, because I can still get a buzz, I can still do, whatever and just go on. But the problem is with beer, you smell it.
Yeah.
And I was a vodka drinker. You were not going to smell vodka on me because I'm going to be drinking with my water bottle full of all the things, and I'm gonna be at work drinking, and that's kept me going, and it was part of my fuel. And so I shifted into different types of things to drink at work, and that's kind of how I weaned myself off. And then of course, spiritually, I got to a different place And, my prayer life increased, my spiritual life got better and broader and bigger. And so it just naturally it fell off
Yeah.
on its own, because I was more involved, and I lost the desire. I just really lost the desire. I prayed about it, and the taste was taken from me. So yeah, I never really felt like it was a problem.
Gotcha.
And that's crazy because I'm looking back at it now and I'm like, that was a problem.
That was a problem.
But I didn't know that.
Right. Do you consider this poem to be written for the page or written for the stage?
Kind of both, but more for the stage than the page. I think I originally wrote it to perform it. And it was one of my early staples. Because because I think I wrote it in 02.
Okay.
So yeah, it was one of my earlier ones in my Chattanooga time.
Yes.
So yeah, so actually it was one of my first rhyme and chat poems.
Okay. Okay. Because I have found that there are some poems that are, even though they can go either way once they've been created and once they've been, get to a certain level and you're comfortable with your poetry, you can take a spoken word piece and put it on a page. You can take a page, a poem out of a book and perform it. But in a lot of cases, we as poets, when we write, we can tell that this needs a voice behind it.
Yeah.
And as I was preparing for our time together today, I read it several times. Well, because I'm accustomed to you, I heard it in your voice. But for a person who isn't accustomed to you, hearing it took it to a different level than reading it off the page.
Right. Okay.
So I wasn't sure if that was your intention in your creative stage of, pulling this together. If you had thought about, this is a spoken word piece. This really needs to be a spoken word piece. I need to speak this and not just have people read it out of a book.
Yeah. It kind of could go either direction, but yeah, I primarily, when I first wrote it, it was more to perform than it was to just read.
Yeah. I really, really enjoy hearing you read your poetry and share your poetry in that way.
Well, thank you.
So how would you describe your overall poetic style?
My overall poetic style is, see, these are the questions that I don't know really how to answer because I have a style, but I do like to play with words. I do like to use metaphor. I like to use alliteration, and I think that's just fun. I was probably one of the few kids in school that loved to diagram sentences. Why? I don't know. But, I love words. And so because of that, I try to find other words to use to say the same things that I want to say, and then find something to rhyme with it. And if the next word happens to be what rhymes with it, that makes it even more fun. You know what I mean? So, and then if I can find a play word like thunk, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like who to thunk it? Okay. And that's fun. You know what I mean? And it's like, you do stuff like that. And that's where I get it from. And I could take a conversation that we have. Matter of fact, I have taken conversations that we've had, and I've had with other people. One or two words in a conversation can turn into a whole poem about something totally different.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my mind. I'm a fairy tale chaser. So my mind goes into a lot of different directions. And because of that, that's how a lot of things flow.
That's how it flows. So from our studio audience, a question has come in for you to talk about Miss Thang and I think they said poison escape. Okay. But can he see all the time it took for Miss Thang to develop her poison escape?
Miss Thang, that's one of those things that we say about, Miss Thang referred to me, obviously, can he see how, you present yourself a certain way, right? And you have these people that are out there and, look at her, she thinks she all that, whatever, so that's Miss Thang, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So the poison escape was, I use the term all the time, everybody has their poison. Some people smoke, some people drink, some people eat. Whatever it is that gives them their comfort to get away from the reality of life. You know what I mean? If you sit up with a bag of Oreos in front of a sad movie and just cry and eat and cry and eat to get there, that's your poison escape. You know what I mean? If I sit on the curb at 6 a.m. and drink until noon, that's my poison. You know what I mean? So everybody's I mean, I always tell people my poison was always in the bottle.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what that was, because reality says if you do too much of anything, that becomes a poison to your system.
Another question has come in from the studio audience, and they're wanting to know if you'll tell us more about the way your faith brought you through the temptation after being in the Marines and all of that. What role did your faith play?
Just better understanding of where God wanted me to be. And the journey that I was on spiritually, the things that I didn't need anymore because his comfort was enough. You know what I mean? And to understand that I could go to him in prayer and rest in him in faith and know that he would take care of the problem.
Yeah.
You know, and it sometimes it's hard to describe because everybody's journey is different. Everybody's faith walk is different. But when you get to that place where you understand in yourself that God's really got this, then you don't need it anymore. You don't have the taste anymore. You know, and I prayed one time about, you know, I used to smoke cigarettes, and I prayed one time, you know, for God to take the taste out of my mouth. I got sick for 3 days, significantly 3 days, but I felt like I had the flu. So I couldn't smoke if I wanted to, because I just couldn't breathe already, you know, just whatever. So then when I felt better, I had a brand new pack of cigarettes. I went and lighted it up. It was the nastiest thing I ever put in my mouth. And I was like, oh, okay, God, I get it. I get it.
You did that.
I get it because I asked for it, and you took it, and now I'm mad though because I had just bought a pack of cigarettes, and I'm like, okay, now I gotta throw them away because they're nasty.
Okay. What does writing do for you?
Writing for me has been an escape mechanism for me, a way to express what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling. I've been doing this since I was about, keeping track since I was about 14 years old, which is right at about 4 years ago.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So, it's been quite some time, but, and I look back at some of my 14-year-old poetry and I'm like, oh, that's corny. But, you know, that was part of my growth period, but that was the things that I was going through then. You know, crushes and all the stuff that you just don't want to talk to anybody about. I wasn't a Dear Diary type person. Like, you know, that just didn't do it for me. And I just wrote it out, and that's kind of how it got, you know, going for me. And then that anything I hear now becomes a poem, you know, and it's crazy.
That's so amazing that you actually have poetry from when you were a teenager.
Yeah.
Because a lot of us, you know, when we get to a certain point in our writing journey, we look back at that and it's like, nobody needs to see that. And we start throwing things away.
Yeah.
But it shows your growth and it shows your journey when you're able to keep all of it.
Yeah, and I refuse to throw it away. And the reason why is because I like to look back at it and be like, and see if I still remember where my head was when I was writing that. And reality says life repeats itself. And there are things that there are 14-year-olds going through today that I have a 14-year-old poem that could relate to. So it's like, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. You express it a little differently today, but it's the same heart. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, how can people get in touch with you?
I am on Facebook and Instagram, Threads. Facebook is Michelle K. Simon. And Instagram is Strawberry Rain 09
Could you spell that, please?
STRAWBERRY_RAYNE09.
We thank you so very much for being here with us today. You've been amazing. So thanks to M.K. Simon for sharing her poem, Taken Back, and for giving us a deeper understanding behind the meaning and the muse of her poetry, and for even sharing her personal journey with us. And this is really why we do what we do here. Each of us has our own unique journey and our own unique things that we struggle with. And these conversations are intended to help remove the stigma of having meaningful conversations like this one, and to provide some general information on topics that impact us all. Alcoholism and alcohol abuse has touched the lives of many of us and the lives of people close to us. So what are the triggers? What are some things that we can do to help? And what are some things that we should not do? Well, we're going to talk about it with our guest and mental health professional, DeShanee Thomas. But before we do, it is important that I remind you that this podcast is not a substitute for therapy. Always seek the advice of your physician or qualified medical professional with any questions that you have regarding your mental, emotional, or physical health and well-being. Now, with that being said, let's get a better understanding of alcoholism, its impact, and its effects. DeShanee Thomas is currently a pre-licensed marriage and family therapy intern at a local community health setting. She has worked in the mental health world for more than 10 years and has worked with individuals from the ages of 6 all the way to age 95. She believes everyone has a story that shapes who they are, and it's influenced by the people, experiences, and things around them. She enjoys working with individuals, families, couples, and the consensual non-monogamous. Her therapeutic interests includes narrative therapy, CBT, emotionally focused therapy, non-traditional family structures, LGBTQIA+ lifestyles, sexual health, IDD, addiction, and end of life. She believes that everyone could benefit from therapy and having someone to talk to, even for a short amount of time. She is an advocate of therapy being about more than just laying on a couch and telling your business, but learning what therapy is and how it will work in someone's life. When not studying or working, DeShanee enjoys the arts, painting, theater, music, writing, collecting vintage clothing and jewelry, and watching rugby. For the future, she plans on obtaining licensure, continuing in community mental health in order to remain accessible. Join me in welcoming DeShanee Thomas. Thank you so much for being here with us today. So we just heard from M.K. Simon, and she just shared a poignant poem about alcoholism and was very transparent and shared information about her own journey. So if we could start with a definition. So what defines alcoholism?
So a lot of times when people think of alcoholism, they think of someone who is an alcoholic. It's kind of broken down between alcohol abuse, alcohol dependency, and alcoholics kind of like the umbrella over all of it. Alcoholic abuse are those who don't exactly need it to function. So these are the binge drinkers over the weekend, the ones that are just drinking at social events, but they're not consuming it to the point where I'm dependent on this. So the 2 or 3 glasses of wine after work, the family's having to get together, everybody gonna drink. That's more so abuse versus the dependency of I'm waking up and I'm shaking and I got to have alcohol to bring me to point, not even to center, just where I'm going to be okay. Or I have anxious tendencies. I don't think I can go outside until I have this shot. That's more so when we're looking at the dependency and the alcoholism of kind of what we think of this is an alcoholic. So it depends on also how it's interpreted and the consequences before people really say, oh, that's an alcoholic.
And what do you mean by that when you talk about the consequences?
When it becomes a problem, when there's DUIs, when there's verbal abuse, when there's physical abuse that's palpable, like people are constantly showing up with bruises, there's neglect, there's infidelity, there's trust issues, the need for AA or IOP or some sort of inpatient facility care. That's when the big consequences are happening, and that's when people are kind of looking at it, defining, oh, that's an alcoholic. Your problem is this big that we have to get outside help, and not just, hey, calm down, slow down.
Right. And there's a ripple effect.
Very much so.
So it impacts the person, but it also impacts the family and children and coworkers and things of that nature. Expound a little bit about how it can impact people who are on the edges of our lives.
So we can call that, instead of just family, the whole big thing is a system, how it impacts the system. So the system includes everything that you said. So that is family, that is friends, that is children, that is coworkers, that's community. So you have this entire system that it affects. When you're talking about just directly in your household, let's say it's someone who's within a couple and they have children. They are missing work. They are having less money come into the home. They're violating the budget because they're drinking more than buying groceries, paying bills, paying utilities, rent, and whatnot, the risk of losing your home. But also the children are affected because they're seeing these behaviors. They're not developing those proper coping skills because I'm angry, I'm going to drink. I'm sad, I'm going to drink. Because I drank, all these other things have happened. The relationship has issues. There's trust issues, codependency. There's also, and that's especially if they're not drinking together or the levels of drinking aren't the same. When it comes to outside of the home, coworkers, you're not as reliable. Again, there's trust issues. Your supervisor can't trust you, especially if you don't come to work or you're low in production or if you are found to be drunk at work. It creates more issues, and then there's safety within the community. DUIs are a big thing, being violent verbally or physically in the public, in the community, at work. It decreases, again, that trust. Trust is the biggest thing that it kind of impacts throughout the whole thing.
I know that there are lots of resources, and we'll talk about those for those who are dealing with alcoholism, alcohol abuse. But for the system, for the family, are there resources for them?
There are. Al-Anon is the first one I think of, and that's more so AA for the family. So you have Alcoholics Anonymous, of course, but then you have other resources that surround it. So you have it for the spouses, you have it for the children, you have it for grandparents, family, aunts, uncles. So everyone can work on how to navigate this new normal that they're going to have after the person has decided, because the person has to decide that they're going to be sober. No one can decide for them.
Yeah.
So after the person has decided that they're going to go on this sobriety journey, the people around them have the same journey as well, because building that trust, having this new life with this person, this is not the same person that they had before things hit the fan or things got bigger or whatever happened in the first place, to be this is the moment. Now I got to do something.
Yeah. So if the person hasn't gotten to that point in their journey to where they are sick and tired of being sick and tired, they're ready to make that change. Are there any resources for family members at that point, or they have to wait until the person goes in? Okay.
Still the same resources. They can utilize them, but I could say, as a person who worked in a intensive outpatient, the person has to want to change.
Yeah.
You can set up whatever protocols you can. You can try to have less alcohol in the house. If they're going out to get it, then there's not much you can do to stop it, but making sure that there's safety plans, making sure everyone has the contact information that they need, mostly just making a plan to be safe. If someone gets out of control, the kids know, go to this room, go to this neighbor, call this person if it gets too bad. Knowing the signs and symptoms of that, which it's not the greatest, but sometimes it's necessary. It's like running fire drills.
I get that. I get that. And I could see that being really, really helpful for a family, especially when there's young ones involved, especially. So are there certain things that increases a person's risk of becoming an alcoholic?
Many things. And it's not always well, this is happening, so that person's going to abuse alcohol.
Right.
Part of it is honestly environment. If they are around a lot of drinking, regardless of the reason for the drinking, it won't necessarily encourage it, but it normalizes it. Speaking earlier, we were talking about family gatherings. If every time family gathers, they drink heavy, folks start fighting, but that's the norm and y'all keep doing it, it's just going to keep going. As a child seeing that, that's just what we do. Me and my family, we get together, we gonna all drink. Uncle Pat gonna fight Uncle Durag, and that's what's gonna happen.
Right.
We all know. And if they don't, we'll be like, hey, they didn't fight.
Right.
Look at that.
What's wrong?
We got too drunk and passed out, so they couldn't fight.
They couldn't fight this year.
Right. We don't have to clean up any tables.
Right.
I know it's a funeral, but somehow there's still a fight.
Right.
But that normalcy of partaking in that much alcohol, as watching that as a child, that's going to be one thing. Also, any sort of diagnosis like anxiety, depression, not necessarily, oh, because you're depressed, you're going to drink more, but because you have this already ingrained and utilizing it as a possible coping skill. So, for example, anxiety. If I drink this, I'll calm down. I'll be a little more festive. I'll be a little more outgoing. And if I keep drinking, maybe I'll be even more festive, or I will completely forget that festive was happening. And now I am throwing up in a parking lot, or I'm so sad, I just want to not feel, and continuously drinking to that point. Even though knowing the consequences, the physical consequences at bare minimum of tomorrow, I will have a hangover and I will not like that, but I had fun at the time.
And that, if I'm understanding you correctly, is more in line with alcohol abuse because it's connected to a certain occurrence, a certain thing, a certain feeling. You know, had death close to me, I'm sad, so I'm going to drink. So they're abusing alcohol, but that doesn't necessarily make them an alcoholic.
Not necessarily, but both can be true.
Okay.
Both can be true at the same time. Just because someone is abusing alcohol does not mean that they're necessarily an alcoholic, in the sense of, I know I have summer coming up. I know I have this vacation. I'm going to start day drinking and I'm going to drink for like 3 days. But for 6 other months out of the year, I'm not drinking like that. But I have planned drinking around this. And I know I'm going to get to a point where I'm blacked out, or I could possibly be violent, or I can make bad decisions, infidelity, or take drugs that I wouldn't usually take because inhibitions are down.
Yeah. So for somebody who is seeking help, what types of help? I know that you had mentioned AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. Aside from that, are there other treatments for somebody who's dealing with alcoholism?
There's inpatient. The first one I can think of off the top of my head, and I wish I would have written these down, is CADIS. They do inpatient for addiction, many different addictions. So checking in with them if they are available is one. There are a couple of detox units here in town, especially if they want to start that journey. There's also any of the community mental health places may start with some sort of addiction counseling. I know for a fact that Volunteer Joe Johnson has outpatient IOP. So that's intense outpatient. You go to 3-hour-long meetings 4 or 5 times a week. 3 to 4 times a week. I'm sorry. And that's where you start working on skills and you get credit towards that sobriety, especially if you're in some type of program that's legal.
That sounds pretty intense.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. And is there medication as well that goes in with that?
There's a couple of medications. One in particular, it's an injection and also comes in pill form. It will make you sick if you drink. If you have the medication in your system, you attempt to drink, no. Hard no.
Okay. So that's how it prevents or kind of puts up an obstacle, makes it more less appealing.
Yes.
If you're going to get really, really sick just by drinking a bit of it, just a little bit of it.
And again, that's for someone who wants to go on this sobriety journey.
So what are some ways that alcoholism can impact a person's mental health?
So let's start cognitive and just let's start there. Loss of memory is a big one. During the binge drinking, especially like high amounts of alcohol, the blackouts, the brownouts, the missing pieces of time, that's going to be huge. And then the anxiety from missing that time. What did I do? What did I say? Who was I around? Did I mess something up? Maybe. We don't know.
We don't know.
You don't know unless someone caught it on video, which now we have shame added to that because someone has visual proof of you acting a fool or something completely out of character that you wouldn't usually do. So we have depression, we have anxiety, we have cognitive decline. Studies have shown that increased alcohol usage, damaging the liver and the kidneys, also affects the brain and the heart. So those are major things as well.
So you used a term that I'm not familiar with. You said brownout. What is a brownout?
So we know a blackout. Blackout, you remember nothing.
Right.
Absolutely nothing. Brownout, you have bits and pieces, clips and flashbacks of, oh, I did go somewhere else. I was talking to that person. What did I say? When did I take that? Oh, I did take that shot. Oh, no. So you remember some, but not all of it. And that evening, you may have known everything you were saying to everybody, but the next day, gone.
Wow. So how can someone in the system support and be helpful to a person who is battling alcohol addiction, alcohol abuse? How can they be supportive?
So the challenge you run into is codependency of kind of cleaning up their mess for them. Earlier, the poet discussed her son cleaning up bottles. It's things like cleaning them up and setting everything back up so that life can keep going and continuously doing that. You run into that. What isn't codependent is, hey, I'm collecting all these. I need you to see that this is how much you had. So we're going to throw these out now. But hey, accountability. This is going to be a fight. We're going to argue, but I need you to see. For someone who wants to support, it depends on the person. Sometimes gentle prompting. Hey, this is how it's affecting us as a family. This is what the finances are looking like. We couldn't do the thing you wanted to do because all this money went towards you drinking. So no, we couldn't go to this family dinner thing that you wanted to go to so bad. You drank it. You drank a third of our budget. So how do we fix this? What do we need to do? If you need to work more and make more money for your alcohol, cool, great, awesome. Do we need a budget just for your alcohol? Okay, great. But is that going to help? The person is not going to seek the help until they want the help. Yeah. And everyone's bottom is not the same.
Something major that I'm hearing in the dialogue that you're giving that a person could give is that you are presenting factual information. Like, you drank this much, and and we can't go on this trip because you spent this amount of money on. It's not, you run it for everyone and you're an awful person. And
that's feeling.
Yeah.
And fact are going to get two different reactions. Some will still be angry, but if you're looking at the bank account of this is how many times you went to the bar, this is how many times you went to the liquor store, this is how much was spent, this is how much this trip cost, this is how much the bills and the budget are. Where do we sacrifice? Do you want us to not eat? Do you not want the utilities paid? Do we not pay the mortgage? Where is this gonna all shape and fit? Which is going to make someone feel angry and ashamed, and they may lash out, but it's the facts.
It's the facts. It's the facts. Communication means so much, and the way that you present it means a lot as far as getting to the desired desired outcome, because you would want them to get to a point to where they do feel bad about it and they take accountability, and you don't take away their adulthood, their ability to make their own decisions in coming at them that way. You're just pretty much expressing concern, and this is what's happening with our household. How would you like for us to manage this?
But you also run into the issue of abusive personalities. So even presenting in that way to someone who's abusive in any form or fashion, or may have some sort of personality disorder, narcissism, schizophrenia, bipolar, it's those two question mark of how they'll interpret it and how they'll take it. But someone who's diagnosed narcissistic or not, they may take it another way and take it to a dark place. So there's always that possibility.
Because in a lot of cases, there's going to be overlapping things that are happening, other mental health issues that the person is coping with in addition to alcoholism.
Or also a child trying to present it to a parent. Just everybody stop and think. As a young Black child, trying to tell your parent that they are doing something wrong that is hurting them.
Yeah.
Does not go over well.
That's true.
So you also run into things like that.
That dynamic as well. So we talked about the support system and some things that the support system could do in, assisting their person. What are some things that they should not do?
Sometimes, depending on the personality of the person confronting them, may be dangerous. Safety in numbers. A lot of people like to have
like interventions.
Interventions, and having more than one person there.
Yeah.
For some, not just taking their liquor away because they may cause a riot. You don't know how they're going to tear up the house. Just trying to drop them off at a facility, not going to work. Just signing them up for something and like, oh, hey, we're at an AA meeting. Not going to work. They got to want to be there because it's not, they don't have to do it. If it's against their will, they can walk out. So not forcing it, even though it may be detrimental to the system and things may be falling apart. But if that person doesn't want to do it and the law's not making them do it, and even then, they may not still want to do it. They're not going to do it.
Right. It's just a waste of time and energy and effort.
Money.
That is absolutely true. It takes money to go into some of these rehabs and facilities and programs. It takes some money and you're just throwing it away if the person is not truly ready. So as we are preparing for the holidays, we're getting ready to go into the holiday season. And a lot of times there's going to be alcohol there, as the family is gathering, as friends are gathering and all. If we are the host and we know that there's a person in our circle who has a sensitivity to that and may take things a little further than they should, are there things that we as a host could or should do to assist that person?
So there are some things that you can attempt. You can try. You can limit the menu to just wine, beer, smaller things, smaller amounts, lower alcohol content things, mixed drinks that you've already mixed so you know the level of alcohol that's already in them. If you have an event where you've hired a bartender, having them make sure they check IDs, telling a person in advance, like, hey, you are on a 2-drink minimum, and the bartender is keeping track. The issue you run into is you can't control what people are doing outside.
Right.
So if they pop off to the parking lot to their car, with the bottle that they have, you can't control that.
Sure.
Once they get to a certain part of inebriation that you're not comfortable with, you can try to pull them to the side and say something, but you don't know what kind of reaction that's going to give.
Sure.
You can have specific hours for the event, or making sure that people know that there's children around. Some people will drink less if they know children are around. Some people don't care.
They don't care.
Some people don't care. But taking all of those things into precaution when creating your event.
Yeah. And I actually have had some quite amazing mocktails.
Mm-hmm.
So there are all types of menus. I've seen things on
Yes.
Pinterest, and there's actually like some small businesses that specialize in mocktails.
Sleepyhead here.
Yes. So that might be an option for some people to consider as well. Is there anything else that you're wanting to share with us when it comes to this topic of alcoholism?
The importance is it's not a monolith. Because someone drinks does not make them an alcoholic. There's so many different levels to alcohol, how it works in the body, and how mentally a person utilizes alcohol. Just because someone decides, I'm going to drink all day today, does not make them an alcoholic. Because 364 days, they probably hardly drink. But they decided, you know what? Let's party. It's spring break. Let's go.
Right.
But also at the same time, just because you see someone who is fully functional does not mean that they are being healthy with their drinking. And they could be drinking all day at school or all day at work and then going out for drinks with other people. And they seem like they're perfectly fine. So we don't know unless we see a sign that there's an issue.
Yeah. You just made me think of something. And I think about the hazing and things like that happens on college campuses with these young people new to drinking, new to alcohol, new to this newfound freedom.
Oh, yeah.
And they end up losing their lives due to drinking too much and that type of thing. Is there any type of wisdom? And I know that it's different from person to person. It's different from whatever the beverage is. But how do you know when too much is too much?
That's a great question. I wish I would have known. Like, full transparency, I had a huge drinking problem in college. Like, huge. Just when this podcast comes out and my friends from college see that alcoholism is the thing that I'm talking on, they're going to be like,
really?
Girl, of all the people. So part of that was socialization. Everybody else is drinking, I'm going to drink. When it's too much enough, I don't know until the next day when I'm told that too much happened. So having that healthy relationship with alcohol and being able to know this is how much a serving is going to be real important. Because, oh, I have alcohol in a cup. That's a serving. No, not necessarily. That may be 3 servings of alcohol. If I know that my body is only supposed to handle 2 or 3, then let's space those out. If I know that I'm going to be a hot mess, maybe let's not go to that event. And if I do go, let's water it in between. Get myself so full of juice and water that physically I don't want to take another drink until I go to the bathroom, have a drink, and then water it down. Do I actually want to drink and hang out, or do I want to be drunk and not feel anything? Being realistic with yourself about that is also going to be big. I don't have to drink folks under the table. That one was hard for me because I was also the tiny girl who was like, let's go.
That whole competitive spirit jumps in. Let's do it.
Is that grown man on the ground? Did I outdrink him? Yes. I was that person.
Yeah.
And it took some years and some loss of trust and loss of friendships and loss of a lot of things before I went, okay. Oh, okay. Let me chill out. Let me calm down.
Yeah.
Because I thought about sobriety and I thought that's not actually what I want. I don't want to live a life where I limit myself. I need to have better discipline, which I do. Like I mentioned earlier, I have a ritual where every Friday I go get pizza and 2 beers.
Right.
And I love it.
And there's nothing in the world wrong with it.
No. And then there's events that I go to and I'm like, I know I'm going to have a drink there, or no, I'm just going to do a water and a packet thingy in there because I don't feel like it. It's either too expensive, I want to pay attention to this event, or I just don't want to have to go to the bathroom in this place, so I'm not going to drink anything.
Right.
But that's after years of learning all of this. For younger people, they don't know this yet. They don't know.
They think it's all fun, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes it ends tragically.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah. You have been amazing and a
you.
wealth of information. And thank you so very much for everything that you have shared with us on today. If people are wanting to get in touch with you, how can they contact you?
So social media wise, I have Instagram, but it's more of my art page, but I can still be contacted there. And that is Queen, QUEEN, the number 4 corners with an S, Queen 4 Corners Art at Instagram. And as for email, I have an email for mostly my mental health things, and I just answer questions. I'm a therapist, but I'm not your therapist. That's what I tell everybody.
Yeah.
So getting them resources or anything like that, that's my first and last name, DeShanee, DeShanee Thomas, THOMAS @gmail.com.
Wonderful. We thank you so very much. Actor Robert Downey Jr. is quoted as saying, "Remember that just because you hit bottom doesn't mean you have to stay there." So I'd like to remind you that there are several agencies that are equipped and ready to assist those fighting a battle with alcoholism and those impacted by the disease. Don't continue to suffer in silence. As we conclude another insightful episode of One Rhyme at a Time, I want to take time to thank our featured poet, M.K. Simon, our guest mental health professional, DeShanee Thomas, our studio audience, and of course you, our listeners, for joining us in this conversation. And we'd like to hear from you. How has alcoholism impacted your life and even the lives of those around you? How has healing come? And what about restoration of relationships and forgiveness? Tell us in an original poem that you've written in response to this podcast, and submit your poem to RNCPoetry@gmail.com for the opportunity to have your poem read on an upcoming episode. Alcoholism is a disease that impacts the person and everyone connected to them. There are resources available for you. Martin Luther King Jr. is quoted as saying, "You don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step." We hope our discussion today helps to make the first step in your healing journey a little easier to take. Until next time, this is the Poetic Diva. May your days be filled with inspiration, healing, and poetry, one rhyme at a time. One Rhyme at a Time, unpacking the meaning and the muse with the Poetic Diva, is podcast programming that reminds us of the connection between artistic expression and mental wellness. This program has been brought to you by Rhyme and Chat Interactive Poetry Organization and the financial and technical support of the Lyndhurst Foundation, Arts Build, Gold Look Productions, and our Chattanooga local NPR station, WUTC 88.1. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, share, and leave comments for us on your preferred podcast platform. Your feedback helps us as we continue to bring you meaningful content, one rhyme at a time.